This channel's real, this channel's about documenting, this channel's about talking, having an open opinion. And let's get started. Say whoa, say whoa. Say whoa. Head of a horse, the body of a man. Unidentified flying object. Welcome back to another video. What's up, guys? It's me, Do Not Obey, and let's get into another video. Now we're talking about, did we land on the moon? Did we or did we not? Now I do go back and forth, conflicted, because I really don't believe we ever landed on said moon, which I don't even believe the moon is what they say it is, but that's a whole nother story. But if we did ever land on said moon, I believe it was only when Buzz went. And I believe that they seen what they needed to see to know that they shouldn't come back. That's my theory, because there were pictures out showing a glass castle on the moon. I've seen rods come up, but that doesn't, look. The point is, do you believe that we landed on the moon? I say if we did, it was one time. What do you guys think? Do not obey. Stay woke. Peace.
The most intelligent computer in the world, called Google's neural network. And it has a deep fake detector program that's never been wrong. You can feed it a video of Biden or Trump. It'll tell you in 1 second whether it's real or not. They fed it pictures of the surface of the moon from the unmanned Chinese probes from 2014. Said they're real. Every Apollo picture it said was fake. It had a fake backdrop. It was taken in a television studio. That's the most intelligent computer in the world who can understand the pixels. One of them, it suggested that this wasn't even a full-size lunar module, that it was a miniature. And that's how they were able to do wide landscapes, because one of the astronauts' figures, the AI said, was a miniature because the footsteps, shadows, weren't normal the way a person would walk, that they were stamped in there with a fake footprint.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Now this is supposed to be leak footage.
The moon landing was staged. That's a fact, whether people accept it or not. Even today, with rocket and computer technology improved over the last 54 years, NASA can only send a rocket carrying astronauts 1,000th of the distance to the moon. This is why they're using mannequins to orbit the moon without even landing, because the radiation would be deadly to humans. Many are unaware that above Earth, starting around 1,000 miles and stretching up to 30,000 miles, there's a massive radiation belt that astronauts would need to pass through to reach the moon and return. The technology required for astronauts to safely make that journey and survive, the radiation doesn't exist yet. Back then, they only had one A8-inch of aluminium shielding, while today, even a dental X-ray requires a 1/4-inch lead shield for protection during just 1/24 of a second. Astronauts, by contrast, would spend 1 to 1.5 hours traveling through this radiation on their way to the moon, and the same on the return trip.
Actually, von Braun, we found publications of his. We found documentation from von Braun that says every 24 hours on the moon, there's a 50% chance of a catastrophic, deadly error because of decompression from a micrometeorite. So they were there 3 days. They were 150% chance they would have been killed from a micrometeorite. Grain of sand traveling through space at 25,000 miles an hour. And he said you would have to immediately go into a cave once you landed. He also said in writing, in order to go to the moon in one rocket, he says that cannot happen. You need 3 rockets, each weighing, each being 10 times the tonnage of the Queen Mary, or some 800,000 tons each, in order to go to the moon.
What if I told you that we never landed on the moon in 1969? This isn't just speculation anymore. The evidence is overwhelming. Here are 5 undeniable facts that prove the Apollo moon landing was staged. And stick around, because the last one might be the biggest cover-up in history. Number 1, the impossible computer. The Apollo guidance computer had 4 kilobytes of RAM and ran at 0.043 megahertz, weaker than a pocket calculator. And yet, we're supposed to believe it handled precise moon landings, deep space navigation, and astronaut survival. Today, your smartphone is millions of times more powerful, and even now, we still struggle to send humans beyond low Earth orbit. So how did NASA do it flawlessly in 1969? Number 2, the mysterious missing footage. NASA claims the original Apollo 11 footage, the greatest achievement in human history, was accidentally lost. Not just some of it, all of it. The detailed telemetry data, the original tapes, everything gone. How do you accidentally erase history unless there was nothing real to erase? Number 3, the odd reflection in an astronaut's helmet. In one of NASA's official moon landing photos, there's a strange reflection in an astronaut's visor. And it doesn't look like the sun, the moon's surface, or another astronaut. It looks like a studio light. Why would there be a studio light on the moon? Unless they never left Earth. Number 4, the Van Allen radiation belt. A deadly barrier. To reach the moon, astronauts had to pass through the Van Allen radiation belts. A highly radioactive zone around Earth. NASA claims a thin aluminum shield was enough to protect them. But even today, astronauts can't pass through the radiation belts without serious risk. If we supposedly solved this problem in 1969, why haven't we sent humans back in over 50 years? So did it really happen when you add it all up? The underpowered computer, the missing footage, the suspicious helmet reflection, and the deadly radiation belt. The moon landing starts looking less like a scientific achievement and more like the greatest illusion in history.
The reason why NASA destroyed all the schematics, all the electronics, all the diagrams of the equipment, because you could later prove that the lunar module, see, they claimed that the lunar module was powering air conditioning on a bank of car batteries and competed against 250 degrees outside and got it down to a comfortable 72 for 3 or 4 days. I mean, you try that at home, with your car batteries.
Also, batteries of today. Like my Tesla only goes 350 miles if I drive real slow.
The moon on a stage to shoot outdoors and shoot at night. Nathan has designed the moon, and the set is enormous.
This is my first time landing on the moon. We need a great quarry, which is kind of rare. The locations actually found me a great quarry. They were willing to sculpt the landscape to our direction to look like the moon.
The surface appears to be very...
There was a lot of pressure to get that right. There was a lot of pressure to get that right.
Clear up some moon landing rumors.
If they're really on the moon, then why is it so dark? Where are all the stars? And where's all the planets?
Well, the pictures were taken during the daytime on the moon, so the cameras couldn't capture both the astronauts and the stars at the same time, just like how it works on Earth.
And what about this famous footprint that they keep showing us? It don't match the space boots that they've got on display.
When the astronauts were on the moon, they were actually wearing boot covers, and the footprints in the photos match those covers.
And where's this mystery wind coming from? I thought there was only 1% gravity on the moon. Where's this breeze coming from?
The truth is, there is no wind on the moon. The movement you see is just caused by the astronauts swinging their equipment around. Without an atmosphere to slow things down, it may look like it's swaying in the wind, but it's not really.
I don't think the moon landing was real at all. I think it was completely staged. It's so obvious how staged it was. There's no stars. Like, it's real bad. And like the pictures of the Mars rover are ridiculous. Like, it was easy to fool people back then, right? But now we can see that the Mars rover, not the Mars rover, the lunar module, it's made out of cellophane and aluminum foil and cardboard and tape. It is so flimsy. It is so flimsy. And then how were they able, with the thing that it's on their back, with their spacesuit, the big box thing, supposedly has 22 hours worth of oxygen in them? Have you seen the size of tanks on scuba divers? You can only be down there with those heavy-ass tanks for an hour. Yet somehow they were able to walk around in space wearing 22 hours worth of oxygen. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just all a lie. I don't think the moon landing was real at all. I think it was completely staged. It's so obvious how staged it was.
See the ship that made it through the Van Allen belt? Very cutesy, very demure. And see how they collect samples of dust from the surface. Very professional, very mindful. See how he collects only rocks in front of the camera. Very considerate, very mindful. See how gravity doesn't matter. See how when it's speed times 2, it looks fake. That's because it's real. They are not like the other astronauts, very mindful, very demure. Notice how there is nothing to see on the moon except in front of the camera. Only 10 feet of it is interesting. See how when they fall, it looks like they are wearing wires? That's because they are not wearing wires. It's just very mindful, very demure. Time for some jumping around, very modest, very professional. They aren't like the other astronauts. There's nothing worth exploring on the whole of the moon except those rocks in front of the camera earlier. They even managed to take a vehicle and drive it the second time, very cutesy. He has time to both bounce and sing. Very demure. See how it looks staged? That's because it isn't. Time to go home, nothing else to see. Was worth coming for that rock, though. See how the craft looks fake? That's because it's real. Very cutesy, very mindful.
Proves that the moon landing video is completely fake. In the middle of the desert in the United States, he found the spot where this moon landing scene was filmed. You should know that a Google artificial intelligence was presented in Russia. This AI can determine if a video is fake or not, and it can do this for any video. During the presentation at the Kremlin in front of Vladimir Putin, he chose the moon landing video to see if it was fake or real. This AI declared that the NASA moon landing video was completely fake. NASA admitted that it was a fake video because they supposedly lost the original, according to their tweet. Elon Musk said, I understand better why we haven't gone back, because even today we would have trouble doing it given our technological capabilities.
They would have an instantaneous conversation with NASA, like I might say, hello, how are you? They would say, I'm doing fine, how are you? I'm doing okay. But they're supposed to be halfway to the moon or 136,000 miles away. So what they did is they faked a 4-second radio delay as if it took 2 seconds to go out to them and 2 seconds for the radio transmission to come back. So what you hear, if you want to play it again, is you hear NASA saying the TV picture looks great.
Oh, Apollo 11, Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great, over.
There are 4 seconds of dead air. And now you'll hear the CIA prompting them to speak after the 4 seconds. So we actually have a third track of hidden audio of the CIA telling them not to speak until 4 seconds go by to create this fake radio delay. Now, if you go to the next clip, this is where Neil Armstrong lied.
Roger, Houston, Apollo 11. Calling in from about 130,000 miles out.
And so go ahead and freeze it there. So he just lied. This is the part that's in all the NASA reels. He claims he's halfway to the moon, but what you're seeing is really a circular window of the spacecraft with the camera back. If that were really the Earth floating in space, the lens would have to be at the glass, right? But it's actually at the back of the spacecraft. All the lights are off, and you're seeing a circular window in the foreground, outside of which is completely filled with the Earth and low Earth orbit. They even insert a little crescent piece of material into the window to make it look like the Terminator line between night and day. They would have an instantaneous conversation with...
Did we really land on the moon? Watch this.
Oh man, that's the best idea since they faked the moon landing.
Okay, cut.
Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's no.
This man is John Young. He was an American astronaut, and he became the 9th person to walk on the moon. But when he was asked if he walked on the moon, this was his response. Listen carefully to this.
You want me to knock you in the head?
Well, I want you to swear to God on the Bible that you walked on the moon.
Okay.
If you walked on the moon, we're given the opportunity to swear to God that you walked on the moon.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to get the knocked out of you and leave me alone.
Gene Reuben Akers. I don't want any money for what I'm doing because hopefully this video won't come out until after my death. So I have nothing to gain, nothing to profit by telling you what I'm going to tell you. In 1968, my father was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. We lived in Clovis, New Mexico. He was in the military police for over 20 years, and on his deathbed in 2002, we made a recording of what happened. Project Slam Dunk was the name of this. President Johnson in 1968, okay? In Cannon Air Force Base in 1968, he said by the time he got there, that there was already 2 large hangars that were connected. There was hundreds of dump trucks that came in and dumped sand and stone, and cement powder was powdered over the top of all that to make it look like a lunar landscape. They had men that fashioned it into a lunar landscape, he said. Okay, I've never known my dad to lie, so this all took me by surprise. You know, what's that all about? So anyway, he said that in front of the airplane hangars was pole framing with large canvas tents that was concealing the inside of the staging area. Inside the staging area, on flatbed trucks, was created the lunar lander that was reassembled back inside the hangars. All of the walls were painted flat black, and the ceilings as well. He was sworn to secrecy by the NSA, and they would put him in prison for breaking that oath. When Dad saw the moon landing on TV, he cried. He said he knew that what he had witnessed on TV was exactly what they recorded in that hangar.
This next clip has a whole lot of cussing, but it's making a good point. Okay.
You really believe that in 1969, when televisions were still in black and white, and folks were still using rotary fucking phones, and most new cars sold in the United States didn't even have power windows or fucking air conditioning, that we just strapped 2 cowboys into what was essentially a fucking Coke can with a Chevy small block attached to it, and just launched them motherfuckers out into orbit on nothing more than a hope and a fucking dream, and somehow managed to land that glorified bottle rocket safely on an uncharted lunar surface, where they then got out and played hopscotch for a few hours, and then they got right back inside that motherfucker, and then somehow managed to launch themselves back off the goddamn moon with no infrastructure. And then
Okay, so this next clip can be misleading if you read it. We all know that's not Neil Armstrong, okay? This is one of his partners. He's telling what they saw. This is why I get conflicted. Is he telling the truth, or is he spinning the narrative for the Matrix to keep the confusion? Okay.
We got to the moon, we found out a lot of surprises, okay? The Draco reptilians were already there. And we knew because we had probes when we went, non-manned probes that we sent around the moon. So we knew there were a facility on the backside. We knew a whole lot that people didn't talk about. But we were in a position where this moon is not a moon, okay? It's not your moon in the first place. Actually, this is not your planet. This is their laboratory, okay?
Right. Okay, the Dracos, you mean, or the reptilians?
Draco reptilian slash
They're on the surface. The reptilians are on the surface of the moon. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, they're standing underneath the ships.
And you saw this?
Yeah. And
Empty. That's looking good. Down a half. 6 forward. 60 seconds. Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent.
They're making a point in the comments. It's only 2, but they said who's recording, correct? And then it says, how did we get the exterior shots of the lunar module? Did they send a probe down first? Baby. Truman Show.
Go both autos, destination command override off. Engine arm on.
We're home.
413 is in.
Man on the moon.
We copy you down, Eagle. Houston,
Oh, gee.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. You're looking good here.
Boy.
Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute. Master arm on. Take care of the beach. I'll get this stuff prepared.
Wally, say something. I'm speechless. I'm just trying to hold on to my breath. And there they sit on the moon. Just exactly nominal, wasn't it? Exactly as a flight plan all the way down. Man planning this thing on the surface of the earth. Oh, golly. We've done it. That's funny.